Hey Ari, thanks for meeting today and for being willing to share your story with everybody.
No, of course.
All right, so let's get into it. Why don't you share a bit about where you were at when we first met before we started coaching?
Yeah. So I was at a time in my professional career where I was looking for that next jump, um, looking for the next role. I unfortunately had just been affected from layoffs in the company that I worked at. And I thought that I had a pretty good grasp at, how to land that new role. And like many, others, I was spending my days applying, interviewing, but nothing was quite clicking. I was getting to like moving along the chains and wasn't getting return offers. I wasn't getting invited to the final rounds or wasn't hearing back from people after the final rounds. And I thought that I had my process pretty well set and, thought that, it was working, but in reality it wasn't. And I needed, some feedback. I needed a new perspective on how to tackle this specific problem that I was going through. And that's where, I decided to begin this journey with you. Um, on really dissecting all aspects of my life uh, because it wasn't as simple as like saying, oh, well, you're doing this wrong. So if you just change that one thing, everything will come out okay. But in reality, it was, taking actually every single step back and reassessing, who I am, who I wanted to be, and who and feeling confident as to who I'm capable of being.
Hmm.
And I never had thought about that. I thought that, I was really just who I said I was on paper and what my LinkedIn bio was saying about me for the past X years that I was working. And that's kind of how I was, marketing myself. And, it wasn't going anywhere. So I was stuck in, that little gray area of like feeling really, empowered of getting that new role, but also feeling really down because I wasn't moving along the chain. So I was
Mm.
a little, I was lost in the in-betweens. So yeah, that's kind of like where I was.
Okay. Yeah. So for most people, it starts with the I'm not getting the interviews or I'm not getting offers, kind of like what you just said. And then you spoke to the whole who am I more than my LinkedIn bio, more than what my resume says who my resume says I am. So for a lot of people, that connection is hard to make in the beginning and to see as to why and how that's important to work on and something as simple as getting a job, right? So, what was it maybe when we met or maybe in our first conversations that allowed you to see that that stuff was, I guess, worthwhile digging into to help you get a new job?
Yeah. Um, you know, you really just told me like aim big. Like you're capable of aiming big. Stop putting these roadblocks, and thinking that like you can't get there. You are more than capable of getting there.
Mm.
And, you know, during the journey before I had met you, I had a lot of self-doubt, lack of confidence because I was laid off and I thought, oh, it's some people that will always say it's, okay, they're lost, whatever. But at the end of the day, it does suck and, it can take a toll on you mentally. And, I was questioning, like, I got laid off. I'm not getting, the results that I wanted. And I started to really downplay my worth and, what I was capable of. And I thought that, I couldn't be applying to specific roles because I wasn't good enough.
Yep.
Um, but straight off the bat, you told me, you are. You have everything that you need to get to where you need to be.
Mm.
You just need to we're just gonna polish it and we're just gonna, get to know you again so you can feel confident, on getting to that end goal. But really just off the bat, it was, without you even knowing me. And sometimes that's what it takes is you just need someone that doesn't really know who you are just to remind you saying you are worthy, you are capable,
Mm.
and you have all the tools that you will need, and I will provide you with more tools to ensure that you are extremely confident by knowing that you can get the results that you need or want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. One of the things that I guess I wish I could change about the world is there's more people saying you can't than people saying you can. And it's not necessarily like people close to you, and not you, just you as in the general person, right? But it's society. I spoke with, who is it I was speaking to yesterday? It was a client I was speaking to yesterday. We were talking about what direction she wanted to go in. And she said she would love to be a big chef or a chef or some type of big chef. And she said, but that's so hard to get. Like there are so few people that kind of make it big. I said, yeah, there are a few people and it has to be someone. So why can't it be you? Like people disqualify themselves before they give themselves a chance because of the odds, because, well, my family, because this is the safe, whatever. So to your point, if you can and you want to, or if you want to, you can. And a lot of times I'm the first person that tells people that. Um, which is sad that not more people are, have that mentality, but at the same time, nice that I can be that person. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else pertaining to like challenges, roadblocks, anything like that? Or did you cover it all?
Yeah, no, I think that my specific situation and journey was because I was only looking at what was on paper and kind of like what I was doing for X amount of time. Um, I always, dreamed and was fascinated with the idea of applying to roles that had nothing to do with what I was, doing previously.
Mm.
So specifically, I was more hands-on on the ground ops, and I dreamed of a world and where I wanted to, apply to different roles like account management, partnership management, and that sphere. And I thought my title is
Mm.
not going to allow me to apply there.
Yep.
And that was a massive roadblock. And I was immediately discrediting and, not looking at any of these roles or opportunities because I thought this is not what my title was. And, you know, that was a massive roadblock. And, you helped me realize, like saying, your title does not define you. Let's look at your title. Let's look at everything you have done. And you will realize that, like, you know, in the professional journey, it's sometimes it's not all about moving up or down the ladder. You can move left and right, right? Like we live, you have those experiences, and we need to analyze that and make you feel comfortable that like, hey, that one sentence that, you might have put in your resume a long time ago could actually be more than enough grounds for you to elaborate more and dissect that more and reinvent yourself in an essence to go apply to the positions that you really want.
Yep.
Um, and that was a massive roadblock. And you and I really spent a lot of time
Hmm.
walking through, what that new role is and how those roles really align deeply with, my expectations of my values and my goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you just said about the title. Like, this thing won't allow me to get what I want. And people often look at something outside of them, like my job title, and say, that thing is the reason I can't have what I want. And they stop there
Mhm.
instead of saying, that thing might cause a roadblock. And how can I look inside of me to be greater than this obstacle outside of me? And when we work together on your new job type, and after knowing you, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense to me. I'm like, how did you even do that other stuff? It just feels like it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I was really fired up about, what we were able to work on in that sense.
Yeah. Uh, that to me was it was the big thing that you really just really assessed was, the reinvention of your priorities and your goals and so many of us we look at things that aren't, apples to apples and we see that, okay, well, I can't do that. But, reality spend a little time with you and we can get there.
Yeah. All right, next thing. So, if you remember, this is going back probably 6 months now. One of the questions I asked you before the breakthrough session, when you were explaining the roadblocks and what you're going through, I said, how intense are your feelings associated with the problem on a scale of 0 to 10? And you said they were a 7 out of 10. Where would you say that number is now?
You know, it's very important and something that you mentioned to me is we still need to feel, we still need to feel everything. You
Yes.
know, it would be alarming if I said if it was zero. So, to give you a number, it would be fluctuating between the 1 and 3 range, right? Because it's important for you to feel these
Mm,
feelings that come, right? But,
yes.
the level of intensities obviously aren't as high anymore as I've been able to, come to terms and feel more at peace and feel really more clearly on how to tackle any roadblocks or anything that, prevents me from moving to the next step.
Mm,
Um, so, that's the range, because it is important for you to identify this feeling,
hmm
deal with it, internalize it, come to terms, but, and how you do so, right, is everything. You don't need to overstimulate it where it completely numbs you from moving into that next step. So,
hmm
yeah, in the ranges of 1 to 3.
I love how you brought that up about having to feel, because it's an FAQ that comes up. People are like, well, you know, I thought I shouldn't feel sad or upset anymore. I'm like, no, you're still a person. It's just to your point, is it healthy? Are you processing it? Are you moving through it, or are you letting it overcome you? And
Mhm.
that's the difference. So I love that you brought that in. Okay. Now, love to hear you share, what results did you get from coaching?
Yeah, really, when I think about it, I think about the physical, side, the mental side, the emotional side. There's so many, you know, outcomes that have happened. When I think about physically, I think about this, rebranded version of who I am when
Mm,
I'm networking and I'm conducting, business. It's it's a new individual. So that is one. Mentally, really, it's more of like a clarity of a peace, thinking that it's okay to not know everything, and always becoming a student. Um, is been so peaceful to know. Um, yeah, I think, I've achieved really a lot of confidence. That's something that was a massive challenge that I had in the past. Um, and feeling confident and in what I want. I think the biggest achievement is really identifying um, really what my values are and what are my goals. Um, and aligning that not only on the professional side of things, but how they internalize to, who you are as a person on a day to day, when you're not in front of the computer or conducting business, right? Like
Mm,
take taking what what you've been taught, what you want and like and transferring that to the professional side. So um a massive achievement of being able to identify what my goals and values are.
mm. It's interesting because a lot of people say values, and that surprises me. And as you're talking, I'm like, why does this feel surprising to me? I think it's because I oftentimes expect people to say, oh, not feeling this bad thing anymore that was stopping me from going after what I want. And now I can go after what I want because I don't have this self doubt or feeling like I'm not enough. And I always expect people to say that. But I guess what's more important than overcoming the negative is welcoming the positive and going after the goal. Because that's ultimately, why you're here. And the values are such a big part of that. So I guess it does make sense. It just has always caught me by surprise. But yeah, the values are such an integral part to that. And I think maybe people don't always come in thinking or assuming that that is going to be such a big aspect.
Yeah, I can't speak on other people's, but something that you and I worked on for such a long time was writing out the
Oh yeah.
goal
Yep.
and
Everybody.
writing it, and like writing it and writing and writing and writing. And one thing, that you always emphasized on, and even in terms of everything, is stray away from using anything that is can identify under the negative cloud, right?
Yeah.
You know, and think about, once you start using verbiage that is more positive, right? It's kind of it goes like hand in hands with like, the arts and sciences of manifestation, right? Like you say things more and you manifest things. Well, it's the same way how you speak and how you write. When you use things more on a positive verbiage, right? That's the route that you will go on, right? You don't want to write something or think about something with a negative baggage back, right? Because it can hold you back from, you know, anything and everything.
Mm-hmm. All of this stuff, everything that you've shared today, everything about the coaching experience, who has it allowed you to be? What has it allowed you to do? And or what has it allowed you to have?
It's allowed me to be, it's whether we like it or not, life moves, we move and we change.
Mhm.
And this was through a chapter of my life that things were changing and I wasn't. I was still doing the same process that I had in my mind of conducting my job and, applying to different jobs, and I wasn't changing anything.
Mm,
So, you gave me the tools to change, right? As, life was changing right before my eyes. So I had become the next version of who I am. I'm not that individual that was working or who I was as the past, 5 years, now I'm a little bit more, I'm this new version of Ari.
Mm.
And sorry, remind me the next two. So who
You don't
I
have to
am
say all
now.
of them, just whichever one spoke to you. But who did it?
Yeah, that would be the big thing, but it allows me to, be this more practical version of myself. It has allowed me to be more of really just confident version of myself.
Mm,
Uh, that's what I would say.
awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap this up?
I just, really just want to express my sincerest gratitude. This is not easy. Um, it can be terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think many individuals don't like the versions of themselves, and the only way that you can get out of that is you really have to spend time knowing who you are, why you are that specific version.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not easy. And it's essential, at some point in your life, you are going to be challenged with who you are and what are you currently doing and why are you doing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to figure out if is this who you want to be? Is this how you want to continue?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was a lot of hard work. It was work that, sometimes didn't really sit well in your stomach because you are really working on getting yourself out of, whatever you currently are and into a new version of yourself. If that's the goal that you have, and this was really mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just can't thank you enough because, you really can't do it on your own. And you can only do so much on your own, and there are times where you need the help or the assistance of someone else to really give you that extra push.
Mm-hmm.
And that extra push is you don't know exactly what it might be until it happens. And fast forwarding 6 months later to see, who that individual was there and how that individual has changed and has continued to take himself on because of your help. Um, it's immensely. So I really do, it's also hard work for you. It's not easy, so I just want to, really just say thank you.
Thank you, Ari. That means a lot. And it is, yeah, it's hard work. I mean, I think your job is harder than mine, but
Mhm.
yeah, thank you.
No, of course.